Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, is out on Netflix. Slight rant about the title. I really hate the fact that the audiences nowadays are so lazy that just calling it Glass Onion wasn't enough for the marketing team. They had to hammer it home that this is in fact part of the Knives Out franchise. And I say franchise, not series, because even though it is technically a sequel to Knives Out, the series is shaping up to be more of an anthology, where Daniel Craig's character, detective character, remains the only constant, the only common point, and the plot, the rest of the characters, even the location is gonna be different every time. And I know that they're already working on the third one, which I really can't wait to see. Once again, written and directed by Rian Johnson, once again starring Daniel Craig, this time around joined by Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., and Jessica Henwick. This time around, the story is this. A tech billionaire invites a group of his friends, a politician, a movie star, an internet personality, and the guy who essentially runs his company, to a private island to spend a weekend there and take part in a neatly designed murder mystery. At some point, the billionaire is supposed to be killed, and the others will have to compete to solve the mystery of the crime. But of course, even though it's all meant to be staged, eventually there is a real murder to be solved. And fortunately, the guests are unexpectedly joined by Benoit Blanc, who is ready as always to get on the case. That's the bare bones of it. I don't want to spoil anything significant because with movies like these, you have to be really, really careful, I think. What I can say is that the film is brilliantly entertaining and certainly lives up to the great impression left by the original Knives Out. Once again, the plot is constructed very well, with seemingly every little detail playing in some way either into the final solution or into one of the subplots, and a lot of clues being left for the audiences to pick up. Some of them genuine, and let me tell you, I was very proud of myself for spotting one of those details immediately. But some of them are simply red herrings. There's a number of things happening where I thought, oh, this is going to be significant, but then it deliberately turned out to not be a part of the main mystery. But crucially, it all still makes sense. It's all reasonable, and as far as I can tell, there aren't really any plot holes. On the contrary, there's a lot of very clever foreshadowing early on that pays off later. And much like the first Knives Out, Rian Johnson uses this sort of wide cast of characters to satirize a number of types of people and behaviors, which he does sort of in parallel to running just a murder mystery. This time around, he mostly goes after tech CEOs like Elon Musk. And really, it almost feels like the movie was prophetic in a way, because the point it makes about these people, and I know from interviews with Rian Johnson that he meant this character played by Edward Norton to be a sort of amalgam of people like Musk, Bezos, all the other guys. But really, it makes a point about people having the public image of genius savants, but really turning out to be asshole morons, and it matches perfectly with the reality of the recent Twitter fiasco involving Elon Musk. And I mean, for me at least, it was a bit of an eye-opening series of events, and it seems that the movie, which remember was made a good couple of months back, has already made those observations before they sort of became obvious public knowledge. So I have to credit it for that. It was definitely prescient in some ways. It also pokes fun at politicians, public figures, stars being slaves to money and utter hypocrites, which, yes, isn't terribly subtle, but it matches the tone of the movie perfectly well, which I thought was way funnier than the first film in general. I think that the performances are splendid. I mean, Daniel Craig once again having the time of his life playing Blanc with the outrageous, exaggerated southern accent. Edward Norton is deliciously annoying, and he even contributed to some of the design choices. There's one flashback sequence where his character is dressed exactly like Tom Cruise in Magnolia, and apparently the actor thought that his character would watch Magnolia and take Tom Cruise there as not this misguided, tragic, but also toxic figure, but rather as an idol to mimic, which I thought was hilarious, but a very fitting take. Janelle Monáe is doing a spectacular job with her performance, and it may not seem like it early on, because she begins the film kind of a one note type performance. She's not doing a lot, but then trust me, from some point onwards she has a lot of heavy lifting to do, and she does that marvelously. Everyone else is great. I thought Kate Hudson was very funny. Jessica Henwick was maybe a little bit wasted or underutilized, but in an ensemble like this, it's understandable that you need to have a character who will just fall a little bit into the background. There's a number of unexpected and hilarious cameos. The production design, clothes, the island mansion, the entire decor are all top notch. There's one interesting thing. So famously, after the first Knives Out came out, one of the viewers spotted that there's a clue in the film as to who the villain was, Chris Evans' character, because he's the only one in the entire film that uses an Android phone, whereas the rest of the characters are using iPhones. And Rian Johnson confirmed in an interview that Apple allows filmmakers to use their devices for characters as long as it's not a villain. So it was sort of a meta foreshadowing, you could say. And so in this film, cleverly, all of the characters from the get-go are using Android phones, so that you can't use this knowledge to spot the villain. I like the cinematography, I like the music. If there's anything to complain about, it's perhaps the running joke with the stoner character, which, again, I don't want to over-explain, but I thought it was perhaps a little bit too on the nose. In any case, though, I loved the movie. I had a great time watching it, and I think it's an almost perfect mix of classic whodunit with some modern-day satire. Wholly recommend.